Hi, Steve.
Hey, Jim.
Got to ask, are you going to raise a fuss? Are you going to raise a holler in today's episode?
Not until I find that there's a cure for the summertime blues. And welcome, everyone. Welcome back to Two Guys Talking About Records, the most exciting show on internet. In fact, it is the sensation that everyone's talking about, or at least our families are. I am Steve, and I am a record collector.
And my name's Jim, and I own a record store, and we get a little buzz, but yeah, the families talk about it because it's like, what are you guys talking about this way? Well, records. We're going to talk about records.
yeah. We're
So,
consistent.
the summertime blues, you look and sound a little better than you did last week, and the week before, and the week before, the week before. So, your summertime blues are on the wane side, correct?
They are. I watched last week's broadcast and like, holy crap, man, that was pretty bad.
You were like, I'm listening to some records,
Yeah,
but I
kill
mean
me now.
that's to be expected. You're a busy guy this time of year. But this week's episode, I thought we would talk a little bit about the vinyl listening habits and what happens to them during the summertime. Obviously, for you, it takes a hit,
Yeah, it does. Big time, man. Big
and
time.
I think for a lot of people it does. For me, not much, but special circumstances as I look around the store here. I listen to records
Hmm.
every single day still, but so we're going to
Yeah.
get to that a little bit later on. We have also got kind of a follow up to a couple of things that Greek disco I mentioned last week. I've got a chance to get some of that up and on YouTube, so we'll talk about that. A little special surprise. Speaking of our YouTube channel. And some Vinylme Please news. I know we've been following that over the past few episodes, but there has been a change in a change in the Vinyl Me Please saga. How's that sound?
Yeah. Yep. And it just keeps evolving into something more that maybe, just maybe, it will bring happiness and peace to many.
There we go. But before we get to all of those goodies on this episode of Two Guys, we, as always, are going to cover our most recent pickups and additions to our collection because folks like seeing that, especially what you're picking up. It's been a slow one, but now I think you're kind of gathering up some speed again, aren't you?
Slowly but surely, though I have saved some money, I will say that. So I've done very, very well. But I did visit my first record store in a month. And
Wow.
and so this week I only have one album to show.
Oh
That's
my.
it.
Okay. Well,
That's
it'll
all I
make an
have.
easy it'll
One
make an
album.
easy playlist, I think.
Yes, but
But
this. I walked into the record store,
you got
and
one.
OG, I
You
got one.
a bad music
There,
for bad people OG.
people. Uh huh. I've it's been since the flood. I have looked high and low for an original. I've seen them online. The prices were stupid, and I just wasn't going to pay that. Uh, and so I've gone to record shows, no luck. I bought a reissue, but nah, just not what I wanted. I wanted the original. So there it was. I walk in this record store. It's not far from where I work, and they had just they opened up a brand new store. I mean, it's like four doors down, and so I go in and they have a glass case where they keep all their cool records, which is
Yep.
kind of inconvenient because you can't look at it until you get someone to open the case for you. But there in front was this. And I go, is that an original? They checked. It's the exact same press that I used to have from in Indiana Press. So, and it was at a good price. And he goes, there's one online that sells for this. He even dropped the price down for me. And this is in great shape. Played it there. It was fantastic. So yeah, uh, quite honestly, Jim, this is the last thing I really, really, I've just been haunted trying to get.
Wow.
I I'm really right now. I'm at a spot with my collection that I'm highly satisfied.
That's
You know,
interesting.
there's still a lot of albums that I don't have jackets for and that, but none of, you know, and I would like to get them for these albums, but it isn't like, God, I really, really want it. This is the one that I've just been chasing. So, yeah, walk into a record store and they're just staring at me. The guy goes, that would not have made it through the weekend. I go,
Oh, they
you know
must have
what?
just put it out,
Sometimes
huh?
he did.
Wow.
They put it out the afternoon, the day before, and someone was looking at it seriously last night. Didn't buy it, and you know the gods, the vinyl gods, sent me to that store. It's like, oh my God! So yes, you know what? I don't care if I don't. I'm set now. I'm very very happy, and it is, you know, you get to that, just that part of, you know, collecting where, I mean, obviously I'll buy more records if I see originals of
Yep.
things. I would snap them up at a right price, but I just not on the hunt for anything in particular now.
Well, we hope you
Yeah,
folks have enjoyed our podcast. It was fun while it lasted, but
that's right. Steve's done.
Steve's done. He's there. But I know
Yep.
you have been really, really looking for that. And that's an album that both you and I have kind of a shared history with. We've talked about that in earlier episodes of the
Mhm.
podcast. But the Cramps and Bad Music for Bad People was my really initial foray into. I don't even want to call it punk. It's punk, but it's not. It's the Cramps.
Yeah.
We've delved into that, and I know that that was the one that kind of tagged you a lot when you lost a lot of those records in the flood. But I'm glad you got that one back
Mhm.
in,
Yeah.
especially
Yeah.
especially since I remember just well over a year plus ago now when you moved out to Colorado, you salivated when you saw the cover at a record show and jumped on it, only to find
Yep.
out it was that repop.
Exactly. It's like, son, and I paid more for that than I did
Wow.
this original. So yeah, yeah, that pissed me off pretty
Oh
big
man.
time.
See, now you got to take
But
that reissued back to a store and trade for something else now.
yeah, well, it's yeah, I will, because this is in great shape, and I still have my original vinyl too. So now, when I decide to sell it, you get two original vinyls in one cover.
There you go. Holy smokes. Well, congratulations. Good pickup this week.
Yep, yep.
So, my
So now
side of
it's up to you,
things,
Jim.
it's up to me. Well, I don't have a lot this time either. I just dropped the hype sticker off this one. Very interesting pickup. We've talked a little bit about my um, fairly newfound affinity to bluegrass. The past couple of years I've been getting into that.
Mhm.
Even before I really picked up on the whole Billy String side of things, I was paying a little bit more attention to Bellofleck and picking up a
Yeah.
couple of his things there. He did that a couple of real cool albums. What was the combo album he did with an artist I think you're very familiar with as well? I forget now. She's
Bill
a
Frizzle?
no. It
Oh,
was a
lady.
yep. But anyhow, this one came across my the new vinyl radar. It was released last year. Let me call this up over here just for a second so I can refresh myself with exactly when and where that was from. The oh, I'm almost there, Steve. Sorry. Okay, Bellofleck released in April of 24. This is amazing to me. This bridges a gap between bluegrass and classical and or jazz. And this is Bella
Hmm.
Fleck's take on George Gershwin's Rhapsody in Blue. And nice little gatefold release. It's got a lot of liner notes on the inside. The backside's there. It's on something they're calling sapphire blue vinyl. Absolutely just kind of a beautiful little marbled vinyl on this. But what this is, and if you're familiar with Bella Fleck's virtuoso style on the banjo, a little bluegrass-ish in there. Very cool cover too, by the way. This is a true representation of Gershwin's Rhapsody in Blue. That just iconic piece. And I don't even know if you'd call the original classical music or jazz. I think it bridges that 50s 60s era from the almost big band classical sound,
Yeah.
earlier than 50s 60s. I'm sorry, into jazz, and it's a fantastic piece of music. I have an original I forget whose it was. I think it was a New York Philharmonic doing the Rhapsody in Blue, one of the more common ones that you see out there. So picture this, Gershwin's Rhapsody in Blue, but the piano has been replaced in all parts by a banjo. And you got a picture of what Bellofleck has done with this. And so one whole side is the larger piece is Rhapsody in Blue, and then an unidentified piece for banjo. The second side, it's a kind of a shortened version. It's called Rhapsody in Blue, and then parentheses grass, Rhapsody in Bluegrass, Rhapsody in Blues, and other things on there too. So this is just it's a very cool album. I don't think it's going to be for everyone because you have to have kind of an affinity for the original Gershwin piece to really absorb this in. But then you also have to accept that the Gershwin piece can be adapted for banjo. So, not something that you'd really think about doing, but Bellofleck pulled it off in this case. This thing, I think, is just it's a great piece of music.
Sure. I used to have a lot of CDs by him. I've never bought anything in vinyl, but I enjoyed him, because he was such jazz, but banjo jazz,
Yes.
and bluegrass. But he definitely does a lot of jazz music with the banjo.
It's possible, one of those cross genre things. Okay, a special one here. This is another very interesting pickup and add to the collection. This is a beat up promo copy of the Headboys. These guys are kind of a power pop post. I didn't want to call them post punk, new wave ish, very kind of knack almost sound in spots. And their self titled album, the Headboys. Some cool stuff on here. I've seen this before, and again, it does have that, let me call it up here. It does have that white label promo, which I really do enjoy, but very interesting because this is a promo. It comes from a radio station, so they wrote their call letters across the front. Do you recognize the call letters of that radio station, Steve?
WB, no, not really.
WBKX, over my shoulder. WBKX.
Yeah, look at that.
That's my college radio station. So I had an album come into the store that came from the Marquette radio station that I worked when I was in college and for a while after college. It's not the first time I've seen a record come in with tagged from the radio station that I worked for. I've got one or two of those in my collection. And it always makes me wonder, the trips that some of these records, these albums take through their lives and how they get to where they're going. Who owned this? Yeah. Obviously, this started off as a promo at the radio station in Marquette. A little before my time. This was released in 1979. I didn't get there until 85. So this would have been there for a while. I may have seen it. I don't know if I played this one in particular, but sometime in the history of the station, when they purged albums, these made their way out, made its way into somebody's collection. They traded, they sold it somewhere. It made its way to somebody else's, and it found its way to me. So
neat.
Very cool. I mean, the music is cool. You've heard them before, and it is that kind of new wave, I'm talking late 70s, early 80s new wave sound that kicks in. It's very power poppy. Good way to put it.
Yeah. I used to have that album. I probably bought it from you or whatever back in the day, but yeah.
Could be too, but yeah, when that showed up, obviously I see the call signs. I'm wearing my KRP shirt today and everything too. I see the call signs on the front, and I thought, well, that's kind of cool. This came from somewhere that I know and love, and was a big part of my past. So, and lastly, I don't want this to be a shocker here because this kind of shocked me, and for reasons that I can't quite explain, but I have never owned a copy of Iron Maiden's Number of the Beast. And in the early 80s, before I went to college and discovered college radio and alternative music, I dug the 80s hard rock. I mean, I saw AC/DC in concert, went to Def Leppard, saw Judas Priest in concert. I had, all the albums, all those heavy metal albums, or the time Black Sabbath. But for some reason, in 1982, this was released, the Number of the Beast escaped me. I don't know why. I don't know how. I've never owned it. I've listened to it, obviously.
Yeah.
It was just never been on my radar with an intent to pick up and add to the collection. So, and I don't know why. Seriously, because this was my groove, if you will, from 1980 through 1984 ish was the hard rock
Okay.
stuff.
I
Don't know why.
Yeah, I never got into Iron Maiden whatsoever, but I'd won a contest a couple years ago where all kinds of people had to send me albums because this is a huge thing, and
Yeah.
some guy sent me 4 Iron Maiden albums, and that was one of them, and it was pretty good. I enjoyed it.
Yep. 1982. This is an original copy. The reason this came into the store, it's a little beat up. Some damage to the cover. The vinyl has seen better days. It plays through, but with any kind of metal or hard rock stuff from that era, if it's got a little bit of scratch and noise to it, you can't really tell because
Yeah.
it's unless you're in between cuts and you hear it. So, I thought, what the heck, I'll give this a listen, and I thought this was in my wheelhouse for that era. I don't know how I missed it or why I ignored it, but I remedied that. So I've got one in the collection now. So.
All right.
Well, as always, we will take some cuts from these and add them into a Spotify playlist so you can listen in. We'll hopefully have that Bellofleck in there for you so you guys can hear that one as well. And we'll put that link to the Spotify playlist will be in the descriptions of both the YouTube episode and the Spotify episode. Not going to be a long one this time around, but it'll be a fun one. How's that?
There we go.
Maybe
Exactly.
I'll add a few more cuts. So. Steve, before we get into some of the other subjects today, I wanted to ask you about an update to the Vinylme Please saga that has been happening. I sent you an article. I don't know if you'd heard about that before. But Vinylme Please, whether they were there was that whole thing as well. They're not really bankrupt. They're in the steps to pre-bankruptcy with that liquidation service and the problems that they were having as far as sending out and fulfilling orders and pre-orders and the whole nonsense with the credit system that they had set up. Well, now comes news that Vinylme Please has been purchased, been acquired. What do you think about this?
I think they did a lot of great things and they did a lot of stuff right. But it's been the past few years that it's been a struggle. So, as the article said, they felt that there is a loyal fan base. There's a fan base that wants Vinylme Please to succeed. And so this group feels that, hey, we've taken over other companies like this. So they're kind of absorbing these record clubs that are kind of failing because there are other ones that are failing out there. I mean, it's a tough model if it's not done correctly. And they feel that they have the right thing. Somehow they're get into your streaming habits. It sounded like that company, and we can gear the music correctly. I was, we were talking about, Vinylme Please, and I just want to show you some album. I mean, this was, a few years back. And I don't know, maybe 5-6 years ago, they put out like here, Buena Vista Social Club. This was a huge album back in 1997, such an important album. And Vinylme Please, they put out such a beautiful edition of this. It's hard cardboard stock. It came with picture and everything. It was well done. It was excellent. Same thing goes with, they did a few years back, they did Spiritualized. And this is such an important album, especially like Spaceman 3, they broke into Spiritualized. And this is one of the best albums from them. But again, the cardstock is heavy. It's beautiful. Thick vinyl, well done, well crafted. And it's just top-notch quality, which is what Vinylme Please was about. They give you inserts. There was booklets and everything in there. But then things began to fall apart in the last couple years. Now, I mean, this is one they put out recently, and, Creedence, the sound on this is excellent. It really, really does well. It's not a fold out anymore. They do include an extra picture in there. This was one of the better things I think they put out last year. But then, and this is the problem. When you would go onto their site and you don't want that record of the month because suddenly they're repeating the records of the month because they got all of them left over. You had stuff like this one here. I had to get rid of my credit, so I bought Bussy Canote, a gal rapper out of Africa. This is awful. I mean, it's just plain terrible. And their site was filled with terrible albums, and they're just buying it, not really understanding their audience wasn't going to get them. I mean, this is number 199 out of 500, and I'm really positive they still have the other 299, the 201 there or whatever. But it was god awful, and I had to buy a Sun Ra. I'm not interested in Sun Ra, but I had to get rid of my collection, so I now have Free Jazz. Though people love this album, they love Sun Ra, but for me, just wasn't it. But the quality just went down. The card stock got light. They didn't give extras anymore. They didn't have money. I get it. I don't, so cutting it short. And stuff like this is cheaper for them, I'm sure, to get copyright, for. And so you can just put it out. And it was just a total meltdown. And, again, I'm scrambling because I have all this money and I'm having to buy stuff I don't want, but it's better than losing it.
Well, and that begs the question. I don't recall seeing it in this article whether or not they're going to honor any of those credits or how that's going to work after the sale. But the headline was that this is from Variety, record subscription company Vinylme Please has been acquired by Vinyl Inc., all caps, Vinyl Inc. New owners vow to restore the troubled service to its former glory. So we'll have to wait and see what that means. And, I don't know how many people are stuck out there with any credit left after the whole debacle over the past several months.
I can't believe anybody's still in it unless you had the year subscription. I was about every 3 months. And so, I dropped mine last month. I was able to drop it. And maybe they'll send something back asking us to come back. Here's what we're going to do. And I would be interested. The thing is, Vinylme Please is not cheap. Yeah. And the price kept going up, but the quality kept going down. Which was, it's just, they're trying to figure out how to not go bankrupt, I guess. So it would really have to be something exciting to get me to come back in and feel good first on the price, because not cheap, but what are they going to be offering? Because the last years has been god awful, which is why I had so much credit.
Well, we'll pay attention to it and see and hope and cross the fingers that they get this fixed for everybody.
Yeah, and all I can say, I know they were even talking about trying to sell maybe to retailers, putting it out there. That was in the article, that just different ways to try to sell the records. They got a lot of crap in that warehouse. That's all I can tell. When you go on that site, go, oh my God, they've been trying to sell those for 3 years and it's still there. No, good luck.
So the one thing I want you to look for on the site, Steve, maybe you can pick one of these up still, see if they have any traditional Greek disco music that they're going to try to get rid of. No?
I wouldn't be shocked.
No, man. So last week I mentioned, I'm doing all these research on some obscure Michigan albums that have been coming through. And I'd found this one. It's by a group called Rhodians. And when I looked this up into Discogs, it listed it as traditional country folk music, which is kind of the blanket umbrella for world music in some cases. But traditional Greek music from a Detroit band, but then it laid in the sub-genre of disco. And I thought, that's not right. That's not right. So I got the album cleaned up, got it cataloged, and threw it on the turntable, and it was traditional Greek music, Greek folk music. Yeah. And then all of a sudden the disco beat kicked in. I'll be darned if that wasn't the case. So are you up for a quick, this one I did check. The copyright is cool on this with YouTube.
I bet.
Do you want to take a quick listen to this?
We just should, because the world wants to know.
Okay, hang on, Steve. Let me play this real quick.
saga pausimera, grata mestinanga ya susimera, ya semena medico susimera.
Okay. Was I correct? Greek with disco.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. Luckily, I was part of the disco era, but I don't remember that being played at the discos that I went to.
It is bizarre. Now let me call this up here. This is the Rhodians disco, their discography page on Discogs, and right off the bat, they're called a traditional and pop Greek American family band. They've got a website there. It's a tripod.com website, so it is non-existent, and it lists the members, and there's not a whole lot in there. But I was able to track down that these guys are indeed a longer-term traditional Detroit band from the 70s and into the early 80s. Many of them have passed from now, but they were a very active local and folk traditional band. Detroit does have a Greek town, very popular destination, lots of great food there and sights and shopping and the like. So as a group, though, Rhodians released 5 albums and a couple of singles. Their first one, the one that I've got was released in 1979 on Colossus Records, and it's all the titles are all in Greek, but they've got the American, the English titles on there as well.
Yeah.
Only 2 versions, an 8-track tape and the album that we have. Now the album, again, you can see it right there: funk, soul, folk, world, country, and style of disco. And I'll be damned if that isn't disco music kicking in there as well.
I'm just going to bet these guys were huge at the Greek retirement homes. So pop in there, a bunch of silver-haired little old Greek ladies going, yeah, this is awesome.
Cool stuff.
Man.
I mean, it's not a slouch. The Discog sales range from $10, $12 onward to upwards of $30. And it says right there, Detroit disco on here as well. But their other album, when I got looking at them and their discography, I went back to their very first album from 1975. Now, 79, you're kind of getting into that super disco era, but their first album, which I've not heard, I did play a cut or two, still that traditional Greek music, but this one listed as rock, folk, world, and country in the style of psychedelic rock. So they kind of moved with the times.
Other than that, are you going to become a completist?
I don't think so, but you never know. This one is it's only on vinyl, pressed at Archer Records in Detroit. So you know that is a true Detroit album. This one, they've got 4 copies starting at $7. I don't know. Maybe I'll have to dig into that. But that's a very interesting take. If you think though that this group, together from the 70s into the early 80s and beyond, when they pressed vinyl at least, their style apparently kind of kept up with current trends. Traditional Greek music, but it went from psychedelic rock all the way to that disco side. This one, traditional, their 76 one, Rainbow of Dancing Hits. There's no subgenre on that, and that's a little pricier. Sparkle in 1978. Again, I think this is all just basic traditional. No subgenre there. And then they did Past and Present, and there's no pressing year on that one. Still traditional, my guess is. That one's a little more expensive. That Hitsword's about $50. But that one's probably into the early 80s. But still, regardless, I had a blast with this one, just doing some research on it and listening to it. And I will have more cuts of this up on our YouTube channel for those of you. I doubt that this is in Spotify, so we'll steer you back to our YouTube channel if you're curious on what Greek folk traditional disco sounds like.
What a great wedding band.
For the right wedding. Well, yeah, for the right wedding. Maybe I'll have to take that.
For the Greek weddings. Because there is such a huge Greek population. And I mean, if you want the best Euros, just go to Detroit because they're everywhere. It is just a huge Greek city.
I just got so amused hearing that disco wah 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 guitar kick in.
Yeah.
On some of those. Anyway, tons of fun. I always like finding those types of things when they come through the record store. So always enjoyable. Hey, speaking of copyright, and I did make sure that we were clear on the copyright, so we can include that little clip in there. One other side note, Steve, I got a notice from YouTube last week that one of my older videos from 2022, August of 22, had received a copyright warning. It wasn't a strike. It was just, hey, you can't monetize this video because of the music, which I always find odd because that's been up for a long time, for them to not notice it. And then all of a sudden there's a copyright claim. So no biggie on there. But I went back and looked at the video and you know what it was?
No, what?
The video that you and the late Bill Young helped me out with here at the store back in 22. I had we do vinyl drops every Friday and I put a video up on this. There was a drop in 22 where I had a tremendously large collection of Bob Dylan going out onto the shelves, and we'd gotten a batch in, and I thought this is kind of a neat one. I had an idea for a video and I asked you and Bill to come in, and we did a little parody of the Subterranean Homesick Blues video from Bob Dylan. And I'm not going to run the audio because they'll tag me on this one as well. But I remember doing this with you and Bill, and it was just a ton of fun. So recreating that Subterranean Homesick Blues feel, just to tease the fact that we had a Dylan drop coming up back in 22. And, I do miss Bill a lot. That was a fun thing. That wasn't too long before he passed, actually.
Yeah, that was. That was a good time. And you mentioned, 3 years later, though, you get copyright. I do get those periodically, too. They'll take a video 5 years ago. There's a copyright strike. Really? Oh, okay. Well, great. Go ahead. Because, my Sunday video, I average anywhere from 3 to 7 copyright strikes a week.
Man.
So it's just, it doesn't matter. The Sunday one, I just know I'll never get it monetized because of my samples. But the samples are important to me to play because that's, I think, what makes the video. So it's better than listening to me talk about it because otherwise you're confused as hell. So, hey, here's a sample. They'll tell you.
That's putting them in there helps a lot. And we don't do it for the podcast because I don't have the time and capability to track down several different platforms and how that works. But yeah, if you folks are curious about the original video, I'll have a little card pop up right now that you can go and watch that with the music as intended. And it wasn't even, I did not use the Dylan music specifically because of the copyright. I found what I thought was a copyright clear karaoke version of it. So maybe that's why, 3 years later they say, hey, wait a minute, that's our stuff. How dare you? The algorithm is slow, but sometimes it'll catch up on you. So always tons of fun. And so let's move on, shall we? You had been really kind of preoccupied the past couple of weeks, and that got me thinking, if Steve Carlson, the mayor of the vinyl community, can be sidetracked in such a tremendous fashion from his listening habits during the summertime, I bet a lot of other folks do too. And to some extent I do. I think I'm a little bit different because every day here at the store, I'm not the type of store that has a stream hooked up to play music. I have the only source of music we have store wide is a turntable. So I'm listening to vinyl every single day that I'm here. But I can understand that in the summertime months, folks really do change their habits. In fact, originally I thought we were going to try to do this episode, and I was actually going to do my part of it from a campground over the Memorial Day weekend, but that was the weekend that you really got swamped in there. But that might have been a fun one. But folks, I think that the summertime is really the time for the vinyl blues because you are just not near your turntable. You're tethered to that when you're listening.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, definitely. You got to mow the yard, and well, I hate mowing the yard, but that's mowing the yard's a whole record album playing. So just there that goes. And like in Colorado, well, obviously I'm working 6 days a week, so that takes care of a lot of it. Yeah. But otherwise, there's so many activities. You want to be out doing something, go out and enjoy the mountains or whatever else. But that's anywhere. You want to be outside until it gets too hot.
Vinyl records have been around well over 100 years. Not vinyl, but the idea of a needle to a groove obviously started with the shellacs in 78. As far back as the early 1900s. So well over 100-year history of this physical media. And its main drag down point has always been its lack of portability. As people were tied to their homes, their living rooms, in the days of early radio, you had your radio, your old Philco radio, or you had your Victrola turntable. Then eventually your television, you're tethered to that in your living room or your record room, or wherever it is you have your entertainment set up. And once, I don't want to say that there's not been attempts at portability. In fact, I've got a couple of photos here. Let me call this up. I'd found some of these before. This one here is a picture of a group of ladies in the 1940s on the beach with a suitcase turntable, enjoying their records in the sand. I mean, quite literally in the sand. I'm sure it's a staged photo through there, but that's been the struggle with vinyl and portability. Folks have always just said, well, we can't. It's not practical. It's never been practical.
Yeah.
I found this other one, an attempt, and I don't know how real this is. I think it may have been a prototype of a woman attempting to load a 45 RPM 7-inch into an in-dash turntable player in her car.
Yeah. Yeah, no, there was a few cars that had turntables even.
Yep.
They made them there. Well, put a turntable in there. Don't worry about the needle skipping.
No problems whatsoever. The car ones, I even found this picture here of Muhammad Ali in a car trying to load a 45 into a dashboard turntable.
Yeah.
You don't want to argue with Muhammad Ali on that there, do you? But again, that's been the struggle always with portability. And I think then when cassettes began to emerge, or 8-tracks even before that, in the 60s and 70s, you were now afforded this ability to take your music with you elsewhere that your turntable could not go practically. And folks jumped on those. I had a box of 8-track tapes pop into the store this week, as a matter of fact, all classical music, some of them still sealed in box sets. Out they go to the free pile because they're 8-tracks, but it's neat stuff. And then you have the cassettes, and both 8-tracks and cassettes, those are still physical media, and it's magnetic media to boot. So they weren't perfect, but they offered you the ability to have your music somewhere other than with your turntable.
Yeah. And now, of course, it's super easy with just the Bluetooth and everything. Man, I have a little a Sonos little speaker thing that I bring to work. I bring wherever, pop it down, sounds great, and just play the stuff I got all loaded in my phone.
Yeah, and in between that, the streaming and the cassette, of course, you've got compact discs, and then you've got the digital players, the iPods. I've got. I was an early adopter on the iPods, to tell you the truth. I had an old, and I still do. I've got an old click wheel iPod. I've got the little iPod Nano stuff still. And I still, for some reason, have a good collection of my old iPods, and they're non-functional in most cases. But that was all portability. But as with the, cassettes and the 8-tracks, the compact disc especially gave you much more portability. You had the Walkman, obviously, with the cassettes. And I had an old Sony Walkman, a cassette player that I would take with me. But the CDs, I think, in some case the sound quality was better. It had more portability issues because I did remember having a CD player a CD Walkman. Yeah. You get bouncing that thing around, and it skipped as much as a record would, in an unbalanced turntable. Cassettes were more reliable for that, but not as good sounding.
In my travels, I would carry the CD portable onto the plane, at the time, because I didn't have it for the iPod. So I would, every week I'd say, okay, what CDs do I want to listen to as I travel this week? And I'd pack them up in a kind of into my computer bag. And so I'm on the plane. I got my little CD player there and go, yeah, this is great. Just enjoying the music as I travel.
Now it's all streaming. And folks' music listening habits, I think, because of that change also too. I only know of a couple of customers I've talked to that said that they actually do have a turntable in their camper when they'll go camping somewhere and they've got that set up.
Okay.
I don't even do that. We've got a camper now. It's got a radio and I can Bluetooth to it from my phone to listen. But I won't carry a turntable out there, obviously. But that's the struggle that folks live. But you are a prime example of this, with your busyness in the summertime, especially with work, and the Michigan's it's different than Colorado, but we also have a large variety of outdoor activities that can draw you away from your music and your turntables specifically.
Yeah, and when you work so much, I just come home and I come up and if you put on a record, the chances are probably about 75% I'll fall asleep listening to it.
Well,
There we go.
don't put Floyd on, put the Cramps on. That'll help you stay awake a
Yeah,
little bit more, man.
yeah. But
Now,
things like it's quiet down, so I get more in. And every week I had to always re-listen to what I'm going to put onto my show. So I do have those records, but it's the pulling the other albums out and say, yeah, I'm going to give this a listen to, or what's that? I want to play that one again. That kind of disappears.
this dovetails into our conversation several episodes back of just how many records do you regularly listen to? And that number
Hmm.
obviously diminishes at a time of year when we spend more time outside, more time away from our record rooms and our records.
Yeah. Now you have to dust them. So they're ready to go for winter.
Well, not as much as you'd have to dust them if you took them outside. I did find a couple of other things. In Audio Technica, these guys have been around for a long time. And back in the 70s, I think maybe 70s or 80s, they did experiment with their own portable turntables, something they called the Soundburger. And I've got this slide called up here. The high-tech takeaway, amazing looks, amazing sound. The AudioTechnica Soundburger. You can extend your hi-fi system. It's ideal for personal listening or the outdoor life. And it shows a couple in a picnic kind of laying in the grass with their record on the grass right next to them.
Yeah.
So yeah, the ad that I had here, with the highest quality sound coming from records rather than cassettes, why settle for second best? The Soundburger unlocks your collection of LPs or singles and gives superb stereo sounds wherever you please, indoors or out. Listen through a neat set of folding headphones provided, or add a new dimension to your hi-fi system, radio cassette recorder. Experiences of musical freedom is now yours for the tasting, as simply amazing Soundburger with high-tech hi-fi takeaway. So, and this, if you haven't seen this is the one that it kind of clips around the label, and then the tone arm swings out and plays inward into there, and so leaving essentially the bulk of your vinyl exposed while you're listening to that and doing that. I did find another picture showing a Soundburger sitting on the grass. I cannot imagine that. This is a newer picture, but I can't imagine that being good for your records at all.
Yeah. I just want to say kudos to the marketing department for coming up with such an ingenious the sound burger, and it's tasty, and those awesome job to that group to make it sound exciting, and you can watch the ants crawl on it and spin around.
Well, to tell you the truth, Steve, because all things retro are fun. I don't know if you caught this, but last year Audio-Technica reintroduced the Soundburger. And they started making them again, and they reintroduced new models of the Soundburger out there for $199 retail. And it is a recreation of the original Soundburger. A couple of different colors available. This is just the Audio-Technica website. I get these available to us through our distributor as well. But it's portable. This one's going to have some battery capability, as I recall. The Soundburger is back due to overwhelming response to the limited edition. Oh, they did this in 22. Audio-Technica's 60th anniversary. They are thrilled to announce this fan favorite returning to the regular lineup. So it's portable. It's got a little handle on it so you can carry it with you. And you can drop it in wherever you want and listen wherever and however you want. Oh, it comes with a case now, too. You can protect your Soundburger.
Wow. An overwhelming response. People were clamoring, we want the Soundburger. They're out protesting. We want the Soundburger. I mean, they had no choice, but we have to release this again.
Here's the cool part of this too, Steve. With the newer versions of this, they've introduced a Bluetooth connectivity. So it's not an onboard speaker like the old ones would have been. You can actually send this to, you mentioned your little sound speaker that you carry with you. So you can send your Soundburger to a Bluetooth speaker as well, or to your headphones if you want to go through there. So
send your Soundburger.
I don't know. While I like the idea of being able to take your records and listen to them. I don't like it's not practical. It's not good for the vinyl. It's just live with your record room and work your way around it is my whole opinion on this.
I don't know. I might get a Soundburger so I could take my OG cramps out there to the beach and play it. I think that would be so exciting to be able to do.
You'd be the coolest guy on the beach. Nobody would kick sand in your face at that point. They'd look at the album cover and go, "Oh boy, we got a badass here."
That's right, man. Yep.
It's a Lux exterior at that point. How's that?
Yes. Yeah. No kidding. Boy.
So I don't know, where do you folks stand with your listening habits in the summertime? Again, I'm an exception to the rule because I listen to vinyl every day as a job. That's my life. But away from that, when I do have the camper out, when Kim and I are out doing some other stuff, we're traveling around visiting friends and family, I don't think about it, and I'll carry my phone with the onboard the digital files or streaming. That's how it rolls.
Quick question for you on this is, as far as on the retail side, does it slump during the summer? Do you feel that?
I do. But and I think I've talked to you about this before. It's always tough to kind of gauge because there's some weeks for no reason whatsoever. It'll be super busy and then it slows right down. But typically in the summertime, it does slow down a little bit. The students that we have here in town, the college at Northwood and the surrounding ones, they all go home for the summer or they go off to their jobs. Yeah. They get busier. So that kind of slows itself down. The plus side is the high schoolers are out. So I'm getting a little more of the high school crowd coming in and spending time and picking up $2-3 records here and there, hanging out in the dollar room. But it does tend to get a little bit slower in the summertime. And that's not only reflected in the sales side of it from my point, but a lot of it too from the release side. There's been a couple weeks that I'm scrimping for our new release show, finding something to, this is really kind of a cool key release that's coming out. Don't get me wrong, there is still a lot of cool stuff coming out. It's just that they don't, they kind of blow their entire their entire steam off right around Record Store Day and then in the time after, and then beginning right around Memorial Day, it really begins to slack off. You see a lot of things like soundtracks or reissues coming out. You'll see, the video game soundtracks were big a couple of weeks ago. There was dozens and dozens of them in the releases coming out. So the record labels, I think, unless it's a key release coming from somebody that they decide to drop in, they're going to kind of slack off a little bit in the summertime as well.
Yeah, push those to fall and toward the Christmas season where people are back spending.
Yeah, you get a better chance at sales in that case. That being said, I mean, it's not completely and totally slow here at the store, but it's slower than it normally is. How's that?
Okay. Yeah.
But I still have fun because I'm listening to records every day still. So.
Yeah. Disco, Greek disco. I mean, what more? What more could you ask for?
And today I think I'll spin the Greek disco and follow it up immediately with Iron Maiden.
I think so. That's what I would do.
We need some traditional Greek folk metal now. Right?
Yes.
So, folks, please let us know how you handle the summertime. Do you get the withdrawals from your? Steve was. I could tell he was like, I need my fix. Or is it something you just say, I'll come back to it, on a rainy day. Even rainy days are cool for listening to records. I don't have to work in the yard. I'm not going on vacation. Or do you find time? Do you carve out time in that summer schedule to make sure that you're spending some quality spins?
Yeah. It's sometimes you just have to make it happen.
There you go. Well, I think that will do it for this week's episode. Steve, as always, it is a pleasure talking to you. I should mention, too, that next week we've got a regular episode coming up. But is that next week? Let me look at my calendar here. I got to make sure. So, yeah, next week is a normal episode. We'll figure out what we're going to talk about as we normally do the day before.
Yep.
But the week after, the episode that goes up on the 22nd, we may have something special planned. We'll see. We'll see what happens. How's that sound?
Yep. Sounds fantastic.
Okay. So until next time, thank you always for checking us out, listening, and thank you for commenting. We're trying to get to those on the various platforms as well. We're seeing them and hitting them up slowly but surely. But you folks really kind of make this worthwhile for us to do every week, and we do appreciate it tremendously. So till next time, my name is Jim, and I own a record store.
And I am Steve. I am a record collector.
All right. Talk to you next week, Steve. Thanks.
You bet. We'll see you. Bye, everyone.